Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to SSUC, Spiritual Seekers United in Community. But you're with Emberwood today. Yay! So we're so happy that Chris is taking some time off to enjoy the summer, and we're so happy that the Emberwood team gets to be here to lead you through this morning's gathering. So welcome. Welcome to all of you who are in this room. Welcome to those of you who are joining us online today. You are welcome, and you are here. So know that as you arrive, as you put your feet on the floor, we're already going to start there. You can already start to notice your breathing. You made it. You're not late. You're just on time. Exactly as you arrived, you belong here in this community with us. All of you are welcome. All ages, all sizes, all colors, all cultures, all abilities, all genders, all sexualities, all learning styles and neurotypes, all religions or none. All people are welcome here. And so this morning, we open ourselves and commit together to creating a safer place where all are welcome and where all belong.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Tori Bardell, and I'll be the gathering companion for us today. Today we'll start with lighting the community candle. We're grateful for light, the light that shines at the center of our system, source of life and energy, the light that shines in the lives of each of us. Oops. Don't light the place on fire. It's not that bright. As we recognize the connection and common humanity in and between us. We're grateful that this candle reminds us to live lives that brighten in all we do and say, that focuses us and draws us toward all that is meaningful in our lives and all that is sacred.
Hello. And hello online. In the time that we often set aside to do a land acknowledgement, I just want to remind you that it's powwow season. So there's a powwow like every weekend. We were just at one. Hey, Joven. We went out to Maskwacis. The next one is in Kiwin, which is really close to town. That's coming up this weekend. So I just wanted to remind you about powwows, that anyone can go to a powwow, and that if you've never been to a powwow, go to a powwow.
All right, a time for all ages. You know we're reading a nature book. So whether you're young, whether you're old, come join me on the carpet if you like. This is an opportunity for us to take some wisdom from some children's books. I love it. And some familiar friends.
Every time.
There we go. Thanks. I feel nice. I feel nice and surrounded. This is what I wanted. Beautiful. All right, friends. We're reading a book this morning called Our Woolly Bear. Yesterday, there was not a fuzzy black and orange visitor in our vegetable garden. Bug. But today, here she is, between the beet greens, as if she's been here all along. It's a caterpillar. I scoop the caterpillar and cup her in my hands. Slowly, softly, I shuttle her to our playhouse. The caterpillar rolls up like a sleeping bag. I think she's nervous, and that means we need to make her feel at home. We forage for pine needles and pebbles to build her a cozy resting spot, and we pluck tiny thyme leaves for her to munch. And last but not least, we sing her all the songs we know. It's thrilling to have a new friend. And after lunch, we race to the bookshelf to conduct caterpillar research. Lou borrows Mom's glasses, the ones that make everything look like soup. And we're just about to quit when we hear Dad shouting about bears from his office. Hey, Lou. Hey, Eddie. I think it's a woolly bear. Dad reads to us from his smudgy screen. Caterpillar phase. The woolly bear caterpillar hatches from its egg in late summer or fall. And when the weather gets cold, it eats several large meals and goes to sleep for the winter under a rock or log. Sounds enjoyable. And during this time, its entire body freezes solid. Even its heart stops. Then he tells us the best part of all. In the spring, the caterpillar transforms into an Isabella tiger moth with wings of gold. Woolly bear is the last thing I think of at bedtime. Sinking into sleep, I imagine I'm a frozen caterpillar tucked under a hollow log. And woolly bear is the first thing I think of in the morning. Throwing off my covers, I run down the stairs and out the door to see if she's awake yet. And just like that, Woolly Bear is part of the family. She doesn't say much, but we don't mind a quiet friend. She's feeling shy. We find our Woolly Bear everywhere. We find her on the shed steps where we watch the clouds drift in the breeze. We find her at the dusty end of the lane where we check for parcels. We don't find her in our clawfoot tub, so we pretend that she's there. And we do find her at the walking trail in town, which is more than 5 entire Beatles songs away from our house. And everyone on the trail wants to meet our Woolly Bear. Slowly, softly, they touch their fingers to her bristles. But when the last leaves begin to fall, leaving crunchy piles on the cold ground, something happens. Woolly Bear disappears. We eat berry toasts and Sunnyside eggs, and we ask Dad to explain why Woolly Bear is gone. He tries, but we can tell he doesn't really know. Soon, it's November. Snowflakes fall like salt from the sky. We build forts out of the couch cushions, and Mum puts nutmeg in the pancake batter. Dad shows us how to feed the sourdough. We haven't seen Woolly Bear in 16 days. And Dad jokes that maybe instead of snoozing under a rock, she hitched a ride to a warmer place like Costa Rica. Shush, we say. We're a little glum. Glum is another word for sad. But glum is not the only thing we are. We are also ready for our next adventure. I dry my arm wings like a cormorant on a pointy rock, and Lou prepares a tasting menu of the last kale leaves in the garden, and we stomp through the bramble down to the beach so I can write our names in the sand with a stick. And somewhere out there in the chilly stillness, I know Woolly Bear is ready for her next adventure too. So you might not be able to see her on the screen, but there she is. Thanks, folks. There's no Kid Spirit today, but the table at the back is full of crayons, coloring supplies that's open for anybody. So you can find your way back there at any age if you like during the rest of our gathering today.
Is around us, beauty is within us, beauty is between us, beauty is unfolding in us, beauty is around us, beauty is within us, beauty is between us, hoping to reveal. Like
gosh, it's me again. This is a thriving community. There's always lots happening. So the mic is open. I think there are some announcements from some folks in the room. So this is your time. Come on up.
Good morning. So yesterday marked our first Thrifty Treasures Market. So Joe and I have some thank yous to make. First, to our wonderful volunteers who helped us over a 5-day period. It was my first experience seeing how this church community comes together to support an event, and it was quite amazing to witness. So please give a round of applause to our volunteers. Also, thank you to the volunteers for being patient with me as I was figuring out all of the logistics of the sale and the church while learning who everyone was and where everything was. Next, thank you to the team at SU, especially for the support from Dara and Shannon. They played an integral role in planning and execution. Next, to everyone who brought in donations, thank you for using our donation forms. It really helped us. It really lessened the workload. It just made our job a lot easier and less time-consuming. Finally, we need to thank our Past Garage team, led by Sandra, because it's always history that makes us possible to learn and adapt and change, and it's so much easier than doing that from scratch. A few months ago, I stood up here and I talked about our goals for this sale, so I just want to review that. They were sustainability, a less labor-intensive event, including downsizing our donations so that we had less left at the end of the day and less to deal with during the week, to build community and to raise money. So we are going to send out a survey to volunteers, but it appears for the most part that downsizing the event made it more manageable. There's certainly some glitches we need to work out. We were able to go down by 58 volunteer positions. That's not people, that's positions from the previous year. So hopefully that's helpful. I hope everyone felt like we built community at the event, and in addition, we also supported community in other ways, such as saving items for our refugee committee and supporting some of our church members by going to their homes and helping them collecting items that they were downsizing that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to get here. So lastly, for money, we knew that downsizing the event would bring in less revenue. Joe and I thought a reasonable goal was about $6,000. So as of yesterday, we're at $6,400. We still have a little bit more money to come in. We're also planning to collect winter, Christmas, seasonable items and have a sale on November 30th in conjunction with the cookie fundraiser. So then that revenue would be added to this total. So please start saving your seasonal items to donate to that event, and we'll send out more information soon. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll review the Thrifty Treasures event to see if it's reasonable to have next year, and if so, a date of May 24th has been secured. So again, a big thank you to everybody who contributed in any way, and a special thank you to the bakers, because I bought a lot. But I also got a lot of steps in during the week, so I figured that evens it out. So thank you.
Thank you, Joan. It was a very successful event, and I was lucky. I was in the basement. Very pleasant. I'm here on behalf of another very successful event. After 5 Sundays, we managed to collect 917 pairs of underwear for Bissell. For men, 546 pairs, and for women, 371. This is a project of my heart, and I thank all of you because all of you must have donated to get to that number. So thank you from my heart, and I'm looking forward to next year, so keep looking for sales.
Hey, fantastic folks of SSUC. I wanted to reach out and say thank you so much for 917 pairs of undies and socks and feminine hygiene products. Just thank you so much. You have you're really making a major impact on the lives of the folks that we support here, and I can't thank you enough for all that you do to support us. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Joya Salustio, and I'm a member of SSUC's Congregational Care Committee. And for those of you who may not be aware of this committee, our goal is to reach out to those members in our community who are isolated and who are in need of moral support and assistance. And our help comes in the form of calls, visits, meals, transportation, etc. Recently, several members of SSUC have informed us of a pressing need to establish a caregiver support group within our congregation. Now, you may be wondering, who here at SSUC qualifies as a caregiver? Well, the answer is quite simple. It's anyone and everyone, regardless of age or healthcare training of any sort or none, who is caring for a loved one, be that person a spouse, a child, a parent, a sibling, a friend, a neighbor, and whether the care be provided full-time, part-time, or only occasionally. As a case in point, this is very interesting. It's actually shocking. Did you know that in Alberta, there are over 1 million caregivers? So that represents nearly 1 in 4 Albertans over the age of 15. And interestingly, and I'm not sure if I support that totally, because they work and they're not paid, they are the foundation of community care, providing an average of 70% of care outside outside of healthcare or assisted living residences. And when loved ones do end up transitioning to supportive living or continuing care to get more support, caregivers still provide 35% or more of the care they receive in these institutions. So the load on caregivers can be very heavy and very draining and exhausting. Caregiving can look different for each caregiver. They could be supporting a loved one by providing around-the-clock in-home care, providing personal care and administering medication, taking loved ones to appointments, purchasing groceries and preparing meals, helping with household chores and maintenance, navigating the healthcare system, being a source of emotional support and compassion, and the list goes on. So to help our committee provide appropriate support to caregivers at SSUC, we've solicited the help and guidance of Caregivers Alberta. Founded in 2001, this not-for-profit organization offers services that are wide-ranging to match the needs of caregivers. Their goal is to empower caregivers and promote their well-being, as well as to emphasize the importance of caregivers being valued and supported within their communities. And I'm sure you all know of someone near you who's a caregiver in one form or another, and what that entails in terms of time, energy, and so on and so forth. If you think you could benefit from taking part in a caregiver support group with other members of our church community, we ask that you let us know as soon as possible, or by Sunday, August 4th at the latest, for planning and organizing purposes. Our objective is for the first gathering of an SSUC's caregiver support group to meet mid-September. So after the service, I will be at the welcome table, and everybody knows where it is, left of these double doors here as you leave this hall. We've prepared a small questionnaire that we ask you to fill out with your name and contact information and meeting preferences so that we can follow up with interested persons. You can also let other members of the Congregational Care Committee know of your interest, and they are Maureen Andre, Paula Elliott, Bernie Hardin, Tanis Eaker, Donna Hodgkins, Pat Seal, Trudy Smith, and Jacqueline Schweitzer. So if you feel more comfortable letting them know, they'll collect your information and we'll be in touch with you. We are such an incredibly caring, supportive, helping, sharing, and loving community here at SSUC. And I have to tell you on a personal note that in all my life, this is, in fact, the most welcoming and caring and loving community I've ever been part of. And so that's the truth, and I'm sure that all of you would agree. So for those of you who are caregivers, a caregiver support group made up of members of SSUC will provide you with an opportunity to share your feelings and emotions, to speak frankly, to be heard, to be understood without judgment, to receive support, compassion, and love, and last but not least, to laugh your hearts out, mixed with many a tear shed. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, folks. From Emberwood, look, there's always lots, and you're always invited. We love seeing your faces. Two things I'll mention, though. July 20th, here in this building, we're hosting and collaborating to put on a grief carnival. We know. It sounds, I can see all of you be like, grief and joy? What's happening? So we'll have a grief carnival. All types of grief are welcome. Death grief, climate grief, watching what's unfolding in the world grief, losing friends grief, shifting into new phases of life grief, an opportunity for what we would call grief specialists. So we'll have a group of us there who can support you in exploring your grief, being present with it, holding it in a way that might almost be fun, dare we say. So we'd love to see you at the Grief Carnival on July 20th. And then the fall, we have our retreats. We'd love to have you. We'll be up at Narrow Lake again. If you've got questions, if you wonder if you are welcome or if you can go and do it, come talk to us because we promise we'll make it happen.
Get to
lots of inspiration today for what Emberwood hopes to share with you about how we understand nature. So today, for our wisdom reading, I'll share with you some words from Robin Wall Kimmerer. She's an Indigenous author, professor, and botanist. Many of you have probably read pieces of, or probably all, of Braiding Sweetgrass. And this is another essay of hers. Singing whales, talking trees, dancing bees, birds who make art, fish who navigate, plants who learn and remember. We are surrounded by intelligences other than our own, by feathered people and people with leaves. But we've forgotten, and there are many forces arrayed to help us forget, even the language we speak. Imagine your grandmother standing at the stove in her apron, and someone says, "Look, it is making soup. It has gray hair." We might snicker at such a mistake, or we might recoil. In English, we never refer to a person as it. Such a grammatical error would be a profound act of disrespect. It robs a person of selfhood, of kinship, reducing a person to a thing. And yet, in English, we speak of our beloved grandmother Earth in exactly that way, as it. The language allows no form of respect for the more than human beings with whom we share the earth. In English, a being is either a human or an it. Objectification of the natural world reinforces the notion that our species is somehow more deserving of the gifts of the world than the other 8.7 million species with whom we share the planet. Using it absolves us of moral responsibility, and it opens the door to exploitation. When sugar maple is an it, we give ourselves permission to pick up the saw. It means it doesn't matter. But in Anishinaabe and many other indigenous languages, it's impossible to speak of sugar maple as it. We use the same words to address all living beings as we do our family, because they are our family. What would it feel like to be part of a family that includes birches and beavers and butterflies? We'd be less lonely. We'd feel like we belonged. We'd be smarter. In Indigenous ways of knowing, other species are recognized not only as persons, but also as teachers who can inspire how we might live. We can learn a new solar economy from plants, medicines from mycelia, and architecture from the ants. By learning from other species, we might even learn humility. Language has always been changeable and adaptive. We lose words we don't need anymore, and we invent the ones we do need. We don't need a worldview of Earth beings as objects anymore. That thinking has led us to the precipice of climate chaos and mass extinction. We need a new language that reflects the life-affirming world we want. A new language with its roots in the ancient way of thinking. Through talks with elders and by shortening the Anishinaabe word for beings of living earth, Bemenizinki, I offer and I suggest ki to signify a being of living earth, not he or she, but ki, so that when we speak of sugar maple, we say, "Oh, beautiful tree, ki is giving us sap again this spring." And we'll need a plural pronoun too for those earth beings. Let's make that new pronoun kin. So we can now refer to birds and trees not as things, but as our earthy relatives. And on a crisp October morning, we can look up at the geese and say, "Look, kin are flying south for the winter. Come back soon." Language can be a tool for cultural transformation. Make no mistake, ki and kin are revolutionary pronouns. Words have the power to shape our thoughts and our actions. On behalf of the living world, let us learn the grammar of animacy. We can keep it to speak of bulldozers and paperclips, but every time we say key, let our words reaffirm our respect and kinship with the more than human world. Let us speak of the beings of earth as the kin they are. These are the words of Robin Wall Kimmerer. May we find wisdom for our living.
Hello again. I'm going to talk to you about nature being alive, really alive, even beings like rocks and clouds. So it's going to be a real thinker. But maybe you could notice also how it lands in your body. Do these ideas make your chest feel relaxed? Is your throat tight? You could track your body as you hear these ideas. All right. I know you've felt it before. You see the stump of a recently felled tree, your neighbor's ugly house suddenly revealed from behind. A gap, a gaping wound in the sky where the tree reached up to the sun just yesterday, and you feel a pang in your chest. Or your furrowed brow and your animal body's fear when smelling the smoke last summer and the summer before. You've shared the pain of animal and non-animal beings in nature. And their joy too. Peace at sunset vespers at camp as a child, elation on a hike, your smile at the cranes returning high above the cute little green leaves of spring, or your kin, the geese, leaving over the golden yellow of fall. Are these feelings, both loving and tricky, from inside you only? Or are we picking up on actual feelings of nature, feelings of the actual trees, the lakes, the land? Stay with me. I get it. You're United Church, you're SSUC. Explain it to me with science, you might say. Well, I could. Some of these recent botanist studies are suggesting that trees could be thought of as just very, very, very slow animals. And if a sponge is an animal, a sponge who can only just float there and hope that food runs into its body that day, that sounds like me. If a sponge is an animal, why not a tree? We've learned now that trees are sharing a lot of information through their roots, with each other, with their fungi friends. And they're doing so at a frequency, apparently, that your house cat can hear. Your cat can hear your houseplants. So yes, we're beginning to hear from science that the living world is bigger and more alive than those of us in the West have ever imagined. And maybe you've always known in your heart, too. The world is alive, and we may just be able to tune in and listen. So, there's a scientific view, there's our heart's knowing, but now I'm also going to give you the poetic perspective of the first century Hebrew people that the Christian tradition stems from. Yes, Chris is away today. When the cat's away, the mice will play. When the cat's away, the mice will talk about Jesus. Okay, hear me out. The reason that this is important to do is that the stories in these ancient books are your stories. As people who are or were culturally Christian, we may love an indigenous worldview, but most of us here are not Nehio, we're not Cree. So we've been asked not to just swipe other people's stories and traditions, but instead to turn to our own. So here are our own. In the worldview of Jesus, back in the day, soil lamented, storms rebuked, trees celebrated. These were actually not metaphors for ancient Hebrews. This was reality. Rich, alive, ensouled reality of this beautiful world around us. When I co-taught an eco-justice course at the Diaconal Ministry School, we assigned a Mary Jorstad reading to the students. This is Jorstad's thesis. It looks extensively at the early Hebrews' enlivened lens on nature. She turns to the work of earlier theologians where she can, but she does a lot of primary research too. It's really stuff we've never heard of. It's understandable. You perhaps have never heard of an animate world in your tradition. But it's there. You come from this. And it's been right there in the text, just sitting there all along. So listen, I know you know these stories. So you remember old Cain and Abel. But you might not recall that after Cain kills Abel, the soil curses Cain. So it goes like this. What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood is crying out to me from the ground. It's crying. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it will no longer yield to you its strength. So in this piece, the blood cries out, the earth opens its mouth, the ground lays a curse, presumably upset. The soil chooses to no longer work for Cain. So is this all personification? Jorstad would suggest no, not for the writer of Genesis. And Jorstad finds example after example. In Habakkuk, it says, the mountains saw you and writhed. In Zechariah, wail, O cypress, the cedar has fallen. In Joel, soil mourns, wine and vines mourn. In Isaiah, stars participate in warfare. In Judges, people talk to the mountains and the skies in Isaiah and Micah. So the list goes on and on. It's just full of examples. Jorstad writes that without the modern problem of the Cartesian split, a split separating the mind and the body, so without that, back then, the writers of these texts understood that trees could indeed praise. Like, you didn't need a mind to be able to feel. So the trees could indeed praise, sing, clap, and rejoice. That non-animal nature is listening, acting, and communicating is stated matter-of-factly and appears in the texts without warning or preamble. That non-animal nature is listening, acting, and communicating is stated matter-of-factly. So her book is chock full of examples. We can look more closely at one that you know well from Isaiah 55. For you shall go out in joy and be led back in peace. The mountains and the hills before you shall burst into song, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. So now I've got this is what Jorstad Mary writes about this. She says, the tendency in biblical studies has been to read all metaphors about nature as descriptions of humans or human emotions, approaching the Isaiah text and others like it as oblique renditions of human, or in some cases divine, reactions and experiences mirrored in the landscape. The trees are joyful because humans project joy onto them, not because the trees themselves respond to the exiles or feel affect. The alternative to this approach is not to read the texts literally, but to take seriously their metaphors. So back to Isaiah, the trees do not have hands. So there is a metaphor in there. The trees do not have hands, they do not clap, but that is to be expected. To read Isaiah in such a way would be to misunderstand how metaphor works. Like when someone describes them as being in seventh heaven, we understand they're talking about their mood, not their geographical location in a seventh heaven, or their idiosyncratic cosmology. They are actually just very, very happy. Isaiah's metaphor is no more difficult to understand. The trees are celebrating. So yes, there is a metaphor. They don't have hands. But the metaphor stops there. They are celebrating. So the difficulty is not in the metaphor itself for us in the West, but in its claim about trees. Isaiah attributes mood to trees, mood and historical awareness. She says, I might describe a tree as happy or unhappy, say if it is flourishing and bearing fruit or looking wilted and blighted, but it would not occur to me to talk about the trees rejoicing at the end of World War II or at the return of refugees from the Balkan Peninsula. But biblical writers do so, though the historical events are not the same, of course, and they do so frequently. This is what I want to understand, she says. How do they view trees? How do they interact with them to make such language sensible and important? So I turn her question to you. How do you view trees? How do you interact with them? Do you find talking with them sensible and important? What would be different for you if you saw the world as ensouled? How would you feel if you let it sink in that your tradition includes an animism of sorts? How would you see nature if all of nature was considered alive? Seeing nature as ensouled might mean the climate crisis is even more personal and more urgent and more devastating than we thought. Our anxieties about the warming earth, those feelings we are too afraid to turn to really open up to and let in, are valid. And those tough emotions are tragically beautiful in that the magnitude of your grief shows the measure of your love for nature. You are allowed to be so sad for these beings. Seeing nature as ensouled might mean our woo-woo witchy ways of knowing aren't to be disparaged any longer. That asking a tree for truth and believing the answer is not to be snickered at or not to be trusted, but to be valued. To be seen as a legitimate way of knowing from our rich history and countless wise ancestors. I know I often ask beings in nature for insight. I did yesterday. Can I remember for you? I was thinking about place and home, and I asked the trees about it, and they are like, where do you find yourself? Because that's sort of what trees, that was lovely. That was just yesterday at the creek. But what I wrote here was, one of my favorite answers was when I was out on a walk grieving my late mom. I was thinking a lot about her death and asked some trees for their perspective. I got the feeling of an answer that was surprising to me about death. I heard in a sense from the trees, we don't understand the question. How true it is. What is death to a tree? There is no death, really. The trunk seamlessly becomes a rich bed of nutrients for more life. And it's the same with my mom, too. I miss her body. I miss her, but she is still very much alive in my life. Seeing nature as ensouled might mean the beauty of Earth is richer than we've ever noticed before. The sun, a being like us, the sand on the lake shore feeling our steps. This seeing, this being with beings, is also now in this worldview reciprocal. We've all experienced that magical moment when the eagle you are in awe of turns their head to see you. We're seen. Or we know we've been spotted in the frightened eyes of many a local hare, and we've all been shouted at by a grumpy squirrel. But as Jude invited us to consider a few weeks ago, do you think your favorite tree misses you when you skip your routine walk? Or that the rock you climbed on as a kid enjoyed your company too? The writers of the Hebrew scriptures assumed that we thought so. As a child of that time, Jesus lived this out, of course. He really seemed to find his truth and his path forward in nature. Sure, he went indoors, but rather than in buildings, it was in nature that he thought and rested and sought answers. Up the mountain, back and forth across the lake, 40 days in the desert, he was always off listening in and maybe listening to the land. And most people I know are like this too, finding peace and comfort and answers outside. Yet for some reason, we pretend we don't. Most people don't truly own it as a legitimate way to connect to the divine or to connect with our true selves. They excuse it as perhaps childlike or naive or unscientific, irrational. Or more common still, they just don't talk about it. Folks have the most profound spiritual or emotional experiences outdoors, and then they just keep quiet about it. Finding meaning or truth in nature is just too nice. It's just too easy. It's not a struggle, so it must not be legit. But remember, here's another gem from our history's stories. You will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Don't worry like the birds of the field or our kin of the sky. Imagine a philosophy of ease. A life of ease and talking to the trees. A life of ease and talking to the trees. Maybe we could learn to live into that and see what happens. And when we do, maybe the trees will clap their hands.
I sing a song to the mountains, I sing a song to the sea, valley and stream, flower and tree, I sing to you. I sing a song to the lion, I sing a song to the deer, birds of the air, life in the sea, I sing to you. Oh, what a wonder. Oh, what a marvel. Oh, how awesome you are. What a wonder. Oh, what a marvel. Oh, how awesome you are. I sing a song to compassion, I sing to kindness and peace, justice and truth, courage and grace, I sing to you. Oh, what a wonder. Oh, what a marvel. Oh, how awesome you are. Oh, what a wonder. Oh, what a marvel. Oh, how awesome you are. Oh, how awesome you are. To you. Oh, what a wonder. Oh, what a marvel. Oh, how awesome you are. Oh, what a wonder. Oh, what a marvel. Oh, how awesome you are. Oh, how awesome you
I'm back. I am really enjoying this today. Nature is becoming very lovely. I like it. So if you'd like to join me now in strengthening our intentions for affirmation for the earth. Humbled to be one of many creatures of the earth and part of earth community, I bless the earth with affirming words of life in fullness. I affirm the rights of animals to live in honor. I affirm the rights of rivers to be clean. I affirm the energy the earth provides for all life. I affirm full life to the oceans. I affirm the life and autonomy of this planet, even when it's denied, ignored, sullied, and abused. I affirm the strength of the earth to persevere. I affirm the innovation of humanity to learn better and sustainable ways. Let it be.
And now, to remind our bodies and our souls and our just our tradition of blowing out the candle when this time is done and we move into whatever comes next. So Joven will do that exact moment, and then we'll be done.